Get out now or I'll put you in a coma. That's what the MMA fighters said, knuckles cracking in the parking lot behind Murphy's bar. The same fighter my wife had been seeing for 3 months. I looked at him, standing there, chest puffed out, muscles straining under a tight shirt like he was ready for the cage. Then I looked at Jessica beside him, arms crossed, waiting for me to back down like some timid husband. My name's Calvin Briggs. I'm 38. I spent 14 years in special ops before coming home to Charlotte, North Carolina. Now I work construction, building houses instead of eliminating threats in places most people can't find on a map. But some habits stick, like reading a room, like knowing when someone's all show. She's finally with someone strong, Brock continued, stepping closer. His breath smelled like protein powder and cheap beer. Someone who can actually protect her. I gave him a thin smile. Fighting in a cage is one thing. 14 years overseas taught me 53 ways to end a fight without breaking a sweat. He laughed, but I saw his eyes flicker. Doubt creeping in. You think your little military stories scare me? He said, but his voice had lost its edge. I started unbuttoning my sleeves, rolling them up slowly. Not because I planned to fight him, because I wanted him to see the scars. Shrapnel from Kandahar. Burn marks from a chemical fire in Somalia, a knife wound from Syria that should have killed me. Brock's posture changed. His shoulders dropped just a fraction. "Calvin, stop," Jessica said, her voice sharp. "Now you're making a scene." I looked at her. Really looked. The woman I'd married 6 years ago who used to trace those same scars with her fingertips and tell me she was proud of what I'd sacrificed, now standing beside a guy who thought flexing made him dangerous. "I'm not making anything," I said quietly. "Just showing your boyfriend what real fighting looks like." Brock backed up a step, then another. "This isn't over," he said, but we all knew it was. I walked to my truck, started the engine, and drove away. But as I pulled out, I saw Brock lean down and whisper something to Jessica, something that made her nod and smile, something that told me this wasn't about my wife anymore. This was about a man who thought he could intimidate a veteran and get away with it. He had no idea what he'd just started. Jessica and I met at a coffee shop near the base when I was still active duty. She was finishing her nursing degree, working doubles to pay for school. I was between deployments, trying to remember how to be normal for 3 weeks before heading back to the sandbox. She made me laugh, made me forget the things I'd seen, made me believe I could build something good when I finally came home. We married 2 years later. Small ceremony, just family and a few army buddies. Jessica wore her grandmother's dress and cried when I promised to love her through whatever came next. I meant every word. The transition was harder than I expected. Civilian life felt slow, quiet. I jumped at sudden noises, struggled to sleep. Jessica would wake to find me checking the locks, securing the windows. She never complained, just held me until the tension left my shoulders. I found work with Driftline Construction, building custom homes for wealthy families in South Charlotte. The physical labor helped, using my hands to create, not destroy. My boss, Frank Morrison, was a former Marine. He understood what guys like me needed: structure, purpose, respect. But over the past year, something shifted. Jessica started working out at a new gym, came home later, looked at her phone more, at me less. She said she needed space to find herself, said I was too intense, too serious, too stuck in the past. I should have seen the signs, the way she flinched when I touched her, the way she avoided eye contact, the way she picked fights over small things, how I loaded the dishwasher, what kind of milk I bought. 3 months ago, she said she was staying at her sister's, needed time to think. I found out about Brock 2 weeks later when my neighbor's kid posted a picture, Jessica and some muscle-bound guy holding hands at a restaurant downtown. I did what any reasonable man would do. I drove to the gym where he trained, watched him spar, listened to him brag about his record, his technique, his plans to go pro. He was good, fast, strong, but reckless, overconfident, the kind of fighter who relied on intimidation more than skill. The confrontation at Murphy's wasn't accidental. Jessica had texted, asking to meet, said she wanted to talk divorce papers. But when I showed up, Brock was already there, waiting, like they'd planned it, like they wanted to humiliate me in front of anyone watching. They succeeded, but not how they expected. I sat in my truck for an hour after leaving, engine running, heat blasting, processing what happened. Not the confrontation itself. I'd faced men with actual weapons, actual training, actual reasons to want me dead. Brock was a playground bully with good marketing. What bothered me was the setup. The way Jessica asked me to meet at Murphy's, the way Brock was positioned near the back exit, the way she stood beside him, arms crossed, watching me like entertainment. They planned this. My phone buzzed, Jessica's texts. "Can we meet tonight? I think it's time we talked about our future." Simple, direct, no mention of backup. Then I remembered something else. In the reflection of the bar window, I'd seen Brock holding his phone, recording. The whole thing had been filmed. My chest tightened. Not from anger. Recognition. This was an operation. They weren't just trying to hurt me, they were trying to document it, probably planning to share it. Look how we made the big, tough soldier run. I drove home, not to the apartment I'd rented since Jessica moved out, but to the house we bought together, where my tools were stored, my military records filed, the evidence of who I really was. I spent the next 2 hours going through paperwork, deployment records, commendations, photos from missions I couldn't talk about, letters from commanding officers who trusted me with their lives. Then I opened my laptop and did something I hadn't done in years. I logged into secure networks I still had access to, made calls to people who owed me favors, verified information about Brock Williams he probably thought was private. By midnight, I had a complete profile. His real name, his actual fight record, his financial situation, his business partnerships, his social media presence, his weaknesses. Jessica thought she'd found a strong man. Brock thought he'd intimidated a washed-up soldier. They were both about to learn the difference between fighting for sport and fighting for keeps. I closed the laptop and went to bed. Tomorrow, the real work would begin. I waited 3 days before making my first move. During that time, I watched. I followed Brock's routine without him knowing. Morning workouts at Elite Fitness, lunch at the same protein smoothie place, afternoons training at Iron Combat Academy, evenings at Murphy's or downtown clubs, usually with Jessica. He was predictable, loud, always talking about his next fight, his training, his plans to sign with a major promotion, always making sure people knew he was the guy who'd scared off some pathetic ex-soldier. On Wednesday morning, I walked into Elite Fitness during his usual workout. The gym offered day passes. I bought one and started lifting weights 3 stations away. He noticed me immediately, pointed me out to his training partner. They both laughed. I kept lifting. After 30 minutes, he walked over. "You following me now, old man?" I set down the weights. "Just working out. This is a public gym." "Yeah, well, maybe you should find a different gym. I hate for things to get uncomfortable for you when I'm training. I need focus. Distractions make me angry." I nodded slowly. "I understand. In Syria, distractions got people killed. But this isn't Syria. This is a gym in Charlotte, and I paid for a day pass like everyone else." Other people were watching. Brock's face reddened. He was trapped. Back down in front of his partners, or escalate and risk getting banned. "You need to leave," he said louder, "or I'll make you leave." That's when the gym manager showed up, Tony, a middle-aged guy who'd been watching from the front desk. "Problem here?" Brock said as who following me around, trying to start trouble. Tony looked at me. "That true?"
I'm just working out. Haven't said a word to anyone. Tony glanced around. Brock, you approached him. I saw the whole thing. He's my ex-wife's... Brock started, then stopped. He had almost said husband. He's what? Nothing. Just keep him away from me. Tony turned to me. You planning to cause any trouble? Just wanted to finish my workout in peace. Then do that, both of you. Brock stalked back to his weights, but the damage was done. His partners had seen him back down. Other members had heard him claim harassment when he'd been the one approaching. Word would spread. I finished my workout and left. But, walking to my truck, I noticed Brock's car, a bright red Mustang with custom plates, red knockout, flashy, attention-seeking, perfect. I also noticed a small crack in the rear window, the kind that would spread if you hit the right pressure point. I didn't touch it. Didn't need to. But I took a picture. Insurance companies were very interested in existing damage. Later that afternoon, I called Jessica. She answered on the fourth ring. What do you want, Calvin? To apologize for the other night. I was out of line. Silence. Then, you were embarrassing. I know. I've been thinking about what you said. Me being stuck in the past. Maybe it's time I move forward. What's that supposed to mean? It means I'm ready to sign the divorce papers. No fight, no lawyers. Clean and simple. More silence. Really? Can we meet tomorrow? Somewhere neutral. I'll bring everything signed. Okay, Murphy's Bar, 7 p.m. Perfect. I hung up and smiled. Phase 2 was ready. That evening, I drove to Iron Combat Academy. Through the windows, I saw Brock sparring. I didn't go inside. Instead, I sat in my truck and made calls. First call, Derek Matthews, a buddy from the service. Now in private security, with connections in the MMA world. Calvin, long time. How's civilian life? Could be better. I need a favor. Information on a fighter named Brock Williams, trains at Iron Combat. What kind of information? The kind not in his official record. Derek was quiet. You in some kind of trouble? The opposite, trying to stay out of it. Give me an hour. Second call, Patricia Hughes, my neighbor. 73, retired banker, treasurer of the HOA, knew everything about the neighborhood. Calvin, dear, how are you holding up? Getting by, Mrs. Hughes. I was wondering if you could help me. Do you remember when my wife started working out at that new gym? Of course, she looked wonderful. All that exercise agreed with her. Do you remember when she started staying out late, coming home at odd hours? Patricia was quiet. Calvin, are you sure you want to know these things? I'm sure. It started in February, Valentine's Day weekend. Actually, she left Saturday morning, didn't come back until Sunday evening. You were working that weekend. February. 3 months before Jessica said she needed space. Did you see her with anyone? A few times. A young man in a red sports car, very muscular. Very loud. How loud? Well, he had one of those cars with the modified exhaust, woke up half the neighborhood, and he wasn't very discreet. I knew what she meant. Brock wasn't just sleeping with my wife, he was flaunting it. My phone buzzed. Text from Derek. Call me. Found something interesting. I thanked Patricia and called back. Your boy's got problems, Derek said. Real name's Bradley Williams. Goes by Brock for marketing. His fight record isn't what he advertises. Claims to be 8-2, actually closer to 4-6 if you count unrecognized fights. He's been padding his record by fighting guys out of their league. Been trying to get signed for 2 years, keeps getting turned down, doesn't have the skills. But here's the interesting part. He's been posting videos online claiming he scared off some Special Forces veteran who was stalking his girlfriend, getting a lot of attention. So there it was. Brock was using our confrontation to build his brand. Derek, how hard would it be to verify someone's military service record? With your clearance level, 10 minutes. Call me back. I spent Thursday morning at the construction site, distracted. Frank Morrison noticed at lunch. You okay, Calvin? You've been off all week. Frank knew about my situation. He'd been through a messy divorce himself. Just working through some things. Anything I can help with? I looked at him. Frank was in his 50s, built solid with hands that could crush a beer can or install crown molding. 2 tours in Iraq. Understood the code. You still have contacts at the newspaper? My ex-brother-in-law works for the Charlotte Observer. Why? I might have a story for him about stolen valor. Frank's expression hardened. Stolen valor was a serious accusation. Someone claiming to be something they're not, I said. Maybe. I need to verify some information first. Let me know what you find. That afternoon, I used my clearance to access military service records. Took 12 minutes to confirm. No record of Brock or Bradley Williams serving in any branch. But according to his social media, he claimed to be a former Marine who served in Afghanistan. I screenshotted everything. Then I called Derek back. I need another favor. Can you get me contact info for the promoters who turned Brock down?
Probably. What are you planning? Just leveling the playing field? That evening, I showed up at Murphy's 15 minutes early. Chose a table near the back. Old habits. Jessica arrived on time, alone. She looked nervous. "Where are the papers?" she asked, sitting. "Right here." I slid a manila envelope across the table. "Everything signed. No contest. You can have the house, the cars, whatever you want." She opened it, flipped through. Her expression shifted from suspicion to confusion to relief. This is more generous than I expected. I just want to move on. Start fresh. "What about Brock? He said you might cause trouble." "Brock doesn't factor into this. This is between you and me." She nodded, but I saw her checking her phone under the table, texting someone. Probably Brock. "There is one thing," I said. "I'd like to apologize to him, too. For the other night. Maybe we could all meet. Clear the air. Put this behind us." She looked surprised. "Really?" I was out of line. "Let me buy him a drink. Shake hands. Show there are no hard feelings." "I'll ask him." "Great. How about Saturday night? Here's probably fine." She agreed and left, taking the divorce papers. I stayed another hour, nursing a beer, thinking through the final phase. By Saturday night, Brock Williams would learn that some fights can't be won with muscle. Some battles require strategy, patience, and hitting your opponent where they're weakest. I paid my tab and walked out into the Charlotte night, ready for war. Saturday night at Murphy's. Brock strutted in like he owned the place. Jessica followed, uncomfortable. I was already seated, 2 empty chairs waiting. "Calvin," Jessica said, sitting carefully. "Brock agreed to meet." Brock remained standing, arms crossed. "This better not be some kind of setup." "Just want to clear the air," I said, gesturing to the chair. "Drink?" He sat reluctantly. "Beer. Make it quick. I've got training tomorrow." "Actually, about that training," I said, pulling out my phone. "I saw your fight videos online. Pretty impressive." His chest puffed up. "Yeah, well, I've got sponsors interested. Big things coming." "Must be tough, though. All that military training in Afghanistan, then transitioning to civilian fighting." Jessica frowned. "Military training?" Brock's jaw tightened. "It's not something I like to talk about." "Of course not," I said, scrolling. "A lot of us prefer to keep our service quiet." "What unit were you with?" "2nd Marines," he said quickly. I nodded slowly. "Interesting, because according to the DoD database I accessed yesterday, there's no record of anyone named Brock or Bradley Williams ever serving in the Marine Corps." The color drained from his face. There is, however, a detailed social media history of you claiming to be a combat veteran, using that false background to gain credibility with sponsors, training partners, and apparently women. You're lying, he said, but his voice cracked. I turned my phone around, showing the empty search results. Stolen valor is a federal crime, Brock, but that's just a beginning. I pulled out a folder. Your real fight record, your failed steroid test from last year, the 3 promoters who blacklisted you for unprofessional conduct, the gym fees you haven't paid in 2 months. Jessica was staring at him. Brock, what is he talking about? And this, I said, producing my phone again, video evidence of you threatening a U.S. veteran in this parking lot, followed by you posting edited footage online to make yourself look tough. His face went from pale to red. You can't prove any of this. I don't have to. I already sent everything to Frank Morrison's brother-in-law at the Charlotte Observer. Should be front page tomorrow. Local MMA fighter stolen valor scandal. Brock lunged across the table. I was ready. Caught his wrist, applied pressure to a nerve cluster I'd learned in Syria. He dropped back into his chair, gasping. The difference between you and me, I said quietly, isn't that I'm tougher. It's that I know how to fight wars, not just battles. The Observer ran the story 3 days later. Local fighters, false military claims exposed by veteran. The article included Brock's fabricated service record, padded stats, and quotes from gym owners confirming unpaid memberships. Within a week, Iron Combat terminated his membership. Elite Fitness banned him. Sponsors pulled offers. The regional promotion distanced themselves. Jessica filed for divorce herself after discovering Brock had been using her credit card for training expenses. She moved back to her sister's, this time not temporary. The man she thought was strong had turned out to be a fraud. Brock called me twice, left voicemails claiming misunderstanding. I deleted them. 6 months later, I heard through Derek that Brock had moved to Florida, trying to restart under a different name. But the internet doesn't forget. I kept the house, found a new routine, started sleeping better. The hypervigilance faded, replaced by something I hadn't felt in years. Peace. Frank offered me a partnership at Driftline, said he needed someone he could trust to help expand, someone who understood the difference between building something and tearing it down. I accepted. On quiet evenings, I sometimes think about that night at Murphy's, about the moment Brock realized real strength isn't about muscles or intimidation. It's about knowing who you are and having the courage to defend it. Some fights are worth having. Others teach you that walking away is the strongest thing you can do.